Hey, friend, welcome back to the Don't Wing It podcast. Or if you are on YouTube joining me, then you can see that I am wearing my coat of many colors today. I'm getting ready for VBS. So that's what's on my mind because we're doing the story of Joseph. But welcome back to Don't Wing It. I today want to share with you. This is something that I have been writing and working on for the past few days. And so I really am excited to share it with you. But it is questions to ask yourself when or if you are ready to start a podcast. So you're like, I have people come to me and say, okay, do I need to start a podcast? Is this like even a legit idea? Should I start one? Should I not? Should I just continue what I'm doing on my blog or speaking at events? Should I start a podcast run? And so I am going to give you 5 questions that you can ask yourself and that will help you determine if it is time that you start your podcast. Okay. So let's jump in. Number one. Number one is here's the question. Do you have at least 10 to 12 content ideas right now? So that if you took out a piece of paper, I'm going to tell you to do this activity. If you took out a piece of paper and you wrote down a list of content ideas that you had right now, that you could come up with 10 to 12 of them. Okay. So answer in your head or out loud if you're in your car or on a walk. Yes, I have 10 to 12 ideas right now that I could start my podcast with, or maybe not. So take that sheet of paper out later and write down those ideas. Okay. So most of the time when I meet somebody that is wanting to start a podcast, who is wanting to start a podcast, and they have a blog. Let's say that I talk with a blogger. They have tons of content. They have so much content that there's not enough weeks in the year to post a podcast. But they have a little bit of a struggle with organizing it. That's what I do with my podcast coaching is I take all that content that you have and then we form it into organization so that you know what you're going to post on your podcast. So, but if you have 10 to 12 content ideas and you answered yes, then this is how you should answer. You should answer yes to that question. Okay. So that's what I want you to do. Okay. All right. So take that sheet out and do a brain dump. All right. That's what I want you to do. All right. Here's the second question. The second question is, do you have a product or a service for sale? Okay. So answer that in your head or out loud. Yes, I do have a product, or yes, I do have a service for sale, or no. So I want to tell you this is that this was me years ago when I started the Friends of a Feather. It was a passion project podcast for sure. But there was a product inside of me during all those years. And I kept putting it off and never did it. And the first thing was a product of my devotional. I could have written a 31-day, and I still might, 31-day devotional for those who are walking through infertility. It is a book that I have self-published, and I wrote a blog and then formed it into a book, but that could be an ebook that I publish for sale, a digital download for sale. And that could have been my product that I highlighted and talked about on when I had my first Friends of a Feather podcast. So I want you to ask that question. Do you have a product or a service inside of you or already available right now? That's a great question to ask if you are ready to start your podcast or not. So I would always say that, yes, you need to have a product or a service if you're going to start a podcast. Now, my second product inside of me, that was the first one, the ebook. But the second one was, it was the service. It was podcast coaching. And so I'm fulfilling that one now. But that product, that ebook, I could have written early on. So I want you to ask that. Do you have a product or do you have a service for sale? Okay. All right. Number three. Number three is, what is your mission of your business? What's your mission? And let me tell you, I did not have a mission, like what I wanted to accomplish in my business for years before I even, I had my business before I even had a mission. And so through coaching and things like that, that I have received, I now have a mission and I know what my mission is for my business. And so I want you to really take time to set aside time to think about what is your mission? What do you get up and do every day? Why do you do what you do? And so write out that mission. And it's okay if you already have a business and you haven't written down your mission. That was me. And so I want you to do that. Okay. All right. Number 4, I'm going through these fast, y'all. Number 4 is, are you in a season that can lend yourself to casting that wider net, to reaching more people? Are you in that phase of life where you can do that, that you want to cast a wider net to reach more people? And, it comes down really to putting up a stake in the ground where you're like, I know this is my story. This is what has led me into business. And this is how I can help others. It just comes down to you saying, I'm going to put a stake in the ground. I'm ready to reach more people. This is what I offer. I know that it's good. And I know I can help people. So if that is you and you answer yes to number 4, then you may be ready to start your podcast. Okay, last one, number 5. Number 5 is, have you ever heard someone say to you, you should start a podcast? You really need to start a podcast. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? You'd be great on a podcast. If you have ever heard that, that is a clear indication that you do indeed need to start a podcast. And so I want you to think about that thing and really about like what they're saying. Are they saying that because of the value you offer? Probably. Are they saying that because you are a blogger and they have been loyal to you and they would listen to your podcast? A lot of times, yes. And so I want you to think about, why are they saying that, and to really consider it when other people say that. And I want to say this, that others will usually speak into us what we don't believe ourselves. Let me say it again. Others usually will speak into us what we don't want to, or what we don't believe about ourselves. And so I want you to think about that. And sometimes that's who it takes to speak into our life for that. Okay. So if you answered yes, let's recap. Okay. Number 1, do you have 10 to 12 pieces of content that you could share? Number 2, do you have a product or service for sale? Number 3, do you know your mission of your business? Number 4, are you in a season that you are ready to cast a wider net and reach more people? And number 5, has anyone told you that you should start a podcast? Okay, so those are the 5. So if you answered yes to all 5, I'm going to need you to book a call with me. That means that it is way time. Time is overdue. You need to start your podcast, jump on a call with me, and we can talk about it. Okay. If you answered yes to 3 or 4 of these, I want you to check out my free download, 6 first steps to starting a podcast, so that will get your mind ready to know what goes into a podcast. Okay. If you answered 3 or 4 of those, yes. Okay. Now, if you answered 1 or 2 of those, I don't want you to hang your hat up and be like, well, that's not me. I don't need to start a podcast. No, don't hang your hat up yet. Maybe it's time for you to really get nitty gritty and decide what your mission is for your business, not your podcast, your business. Maybe you need to do that. Maybe you need to put a stake in the ground and say, I do help people, and this is how I do it. And I want to share my story of how to do that. Maybe you're a blogger and you have those things, or maybe you need to write a few more blog posts and really think about that criteria and think about the content that you would share. Or maybe you need to work on that product or that service that you know is inside of you and you haven't done it yet. So if you have answered one or two of those, don't hang up your hat yet. I want you to follow me on Instagram. I want you to go to Instagram and go to Ren Robbins Coach, and I want you to follow me. You can stalk me. You can look at all my old posts. You can look at my reels. You can look at the reasons why it's great to start a podcast. You can just stalk me as much as you want. Okay, just to hear the reasons why it might be beneficial to you. So that's what I wanted to share today, those results. I would love for you to even message me on Instagram and tell me, what was your result? Did you have 5 yeses? Did you have 3 or 4 yeses? Did you have maybe 1 or 2 yeses? I would love to hear. But remember, if you answered 5 yeses, you need to book a call with me. And that is at renrobbins.com/book a call. So it's WRENROBBINS.com/book a call. And I hope this was helpful. Let me know. And remember, I'm here to help because life is too short to just wing it. See you next time, friend.